Welcome to the RockStar in Life podcast, where you learn the secrets to unleashing your inner rock star so you can make the world your stage. What's up, fellow rock stars in life? It's Siri Shakti, and I have my co-host joining me today.
Dr. Dan's in the house.
Well, today's episode is called Make People Like You.
No, it's actually called How to Make People Like You.
It's called How to Make People Like You.
Very good. Good job. I already don't like you now because you messed that up.
Oh, shoot. Really?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Darn it. Okay. Well, a good thing is I'm going to learn in this episode how to get you to like me. So there we go.
Very good. All right. Well,
so
that's awesome.
Dan, why don't you kind of explain what this, episode is all about? It's like,
Yep. Well, I mean, first off, we're not teaching you like some magical powers, like how to make people like you. You can't just like wave a wand. It's not like that movie, that old movie. We should watch again, that Love Potion #9.
Yes.
With Sandra Bullock before she was like really famous, I think, because
Yeah.
I didn't recognize her or something. But yeah, she was in that. And yeah, spoiler alert, it was a love potion that was called #9, I believe. And they could spray it and the opposite sex would like love them,
Yeah.
like fall in love with them, and it was pretty cool. So
that was like such a good movie, by the way.
Yeah, so we're gonna teach you how to do that.
Yeah, we have a recipe to make a really cool potion, so you can spray it in your mouth and get people to love you.
Yep, it involves goat urine and the eye of Newt.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't know. It's always in those movies. In the witch movies, it always is like eye of Newt or something like that. All right, so first off, I mean, if you're an introvert, or it's introvert, it's pronounced. It looks like it's spelled introvert, but I don't know. The little dictionary thing says introvert.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I remember like we went to an event and somebody said like, "Oh, I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert," and I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" Like, I didn't know anything about that, and I'm like, "Whoa, I guess I'm that right there, right?" And introvert, for those that don't know what it means, I mean, I guess it's broken into like you go internally into yourself. I'm assuming that's what it means. I didn't look at the exact definition. I know that it's written up as you're a shy person. I mean, that's how they kind of write it up. And what's funny is that people that meet me, they don't they don't think I'm an introvert. They don't think that I'm somebody that's shy, and even when you met me, I wasn't I didn't come off as somebody shy, did I?
No,
not at all. And I've, became way more out of my shell from when you first met me. But still, like in small groups and one-on-one, I was able to, to talk to people and connect with people. But when it was a bigger group, or if I wasn't on my game, I had a really tough time. I would go into myself, like I would be able to sit there and just like stay home for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever and be all depressed and not want to talk to anybody, And that's not what you want to do, obviously. Right. So if any of you out there are like an introvert where, you feel like you don't want to talk to people, or you're scared to talk to people, and there's varying degrees. For me, going back, I just happened to kind of force myself into talking to people, because I guess it's also kind of a benefit that on the plus side that I didn't know I'd never heard introvert. Yeah. And I'd never heard, extrovert and introvert or anything like that. So nobody said, "Hey, you're an introvert and that's why you stay home. And that's why you're afraid to talk to people and you're shy." Nobody told me that. So didn't know. So I'd go out there and realize, man, I really want to get out there and make some new friends and have a good time and meet some new people and not be stuck at home and feel depressed.
Yeah, even when I met you, I never thought of you as an introvert. We totally hit it off. We would talk, and it wasn't until later on that you told me more about, when you were younger and stuff, that in certain settings you were definitely more of an introvert. And I know for myself, growing up, I was always very social. I mean, I just talked to anyone, everyone, and even in large groups, I would just get up there and I would talk. It was like I didn't even care. But interesting thing though is as much as I was social all the time, there was often times where I felt like very alone. So that was kind of this mental chatter that was in the background. No matter, like I'd have so many friends and acquaintances, but I always kind of felt like I was the odd one out. Like, yeah. And I still have moments like that as an adult, but I just kind of have to override that and just in different settings, even if that feeling comes up where I feel like different or, from others, I just kind of override that and just get in with what people are talking about and socialize. And so it takes a certain amount of effort on my part now, as an adult. And
yeah, some people are kind of blessed with, whether it be opportunity and also in their DNA where they're, an extrovert and they have no problem going out there and talking to people like you did when you were younger.
Right.
And then obviously even people that are extroverts, they might have something happen in their life, like a life event. Yeah. Maybe they were mugged. Maybe they were beat up. Maybe whatever it could have been. It could have been something horrific,
Yeah.
That could obviously change for somebody. Right.
Yeah.
Some of the people that, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, you could obviously benefit from what we're talking about because, you can always learn more and grow more. And we'll talk about some of the benefits of being able to do this. But I also wanted to mention that I was watching some documentaries and some shows, and I remember also other people talking about this as well over the last couple years. People have mentioned oh, did you know so-and-so is, called himself an introvert as well. And I was like, what? And I didn't know, people like Jim Carrey,
Wow.
Right. Yeah. It's somebody you would not imagine somebody being like that. I also read that Ellen DeGeneres, who has her own talk show. She has to talk on TV, right?
Yeah.
I also read that people like Conan O'Brien, Owen Wilson. I didn't fact check how deep this goes. I just found a couple articles talking about it. Robin Williams, who passed away not that long ago. Who else was it? Steve Martin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that dude, he's been a writer, playwriter, comedian, stand-up comedian, sold out shows, musician.
Wow.
all this stuff that he does. So you never know, who some of these people are that are scared to talk to people. So, if you're one of those people that feel like, oh man, I wish I could talk to people. Well, you're not alone.
No.
Right?
No.
And it doesn't mean you can't be successful, but it does benefit you to be able to learn how to overcome this and it's not even overcoming it. It's just becoming better.
Yeah.
Becoming better at not staying in your shell. And it also takes a balance because, we talked about this. I remember when we'd have family events or something, we actually just had friends over last night. And sometimes I just have to leave the room and I have to just go sit in another room for 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes.
Right.
We've had events at our house where we were, we had coaching students come in and we were teaching them stuff. And, and either you or my partner, Ben, was working with them with something. And I had to kind of leave the room and kind of be by myself for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just so I can collect myself. And maybe I'm reading something, listening to something, just listening to music, or maybe watching a quick show or something like that. I need that to be able to recharge.
Yeah.
Right. So
I guess part of it is learning yourself, learning what it is that you need to do to, because learning how to be social with people is one part of it, but also knowing how to, I don't, for lack of better terms, nurture yourself, what it is that you need to stay, balanced and.
Yeah, no, totally. And keep in mind as well, this is not your fault. Right? If you're an introvert or extrovert or whatever. It's in your DNA, unless, like I said, some kind of traumatic or some kind of, something in your life happened. But it also doesn't help that school conditioned us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about this.
Oh, yeah. And this is something we've talked about many times over the years, that for most of us, we grew up in a classroom where we were told on a daily basis, sit there, be quiet, look at the teacher, look at the board, pay attention.
Do your work on your own.
Don't talk,
own. Don't share.
Keep your tests to yourself, right? We don't share answers. But if you think about it, that is completely opposite than what we're taught when we exit school, right? When we're out of
not
school.
that we're taught, but what we need to survive.
What we need to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I say survive, I mean like, well, actually, in a way, it is kind of like it's required for your survival of the species or
of
your what's it called, your lineage, right? Yeah. Because if you now you're taught not to talk, right? And not to share or do any of that stuff, and then you get into the real world, and now in order for you to continue your legacy, you must meet somebody, right?
Yes.
And what do you got to do that? You have to talk.
You have to talk. You have to
right?
You have to communicate with them. You have to, and also with work, most people in jobs.
That's your survival as well. I
mean,
if you don't do this, you ain't going to make any money.
Yeah.
And you can't survive. You can't live. Right.
And you work as a team, share ideas, right? How many? I don't think I've ever heard a company that's like, keep your ideas to yourself. They want to hear ideas and have, and have people work as a team, work together. So it's completely opposite. It's kind of silly, actually.
Well, turn your work in, and like you said, you have brainstorming ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I spend hours on the phone every day with Ben and people that work for us, and we're constantly coming up with ideas and things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And if we weren't sharing, then we would have no money and we'd be broke.
I've talked to a few people that have kids in private schools like Waldorf, Montessori, things of those nature. And a lot of these, types of private schools are starting to kind of take a different stance on tests where they do group testing, where you work as a team and you're encouraged to share answers. Well, you have to share answers because you're graded as a group. And that's the kind of like group consciousness that we need in the world, is to be able to work together and,
Yeah. And I also mentioned about the DNA, how it's kind of in your DNA and, and also from school and, conditioned in school. But if you go even deeper back than that, we talk about like the fear of rejection, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is another reason why a lot of people are afraid to talk to strangers and talk to other people and things like that. And, it goes back to like the cave days, right? The cave person days. I'll say person days when and even when we were in small villages, after that, small villages and tribes. If you weren't liked, or if you did something to upset the tribe or the group, what would they do? They would kick you out.
Yeah, you'd
right?
be out.
They'd say, get out the cave or get out the village. You're on your own. And what did that mean? What would have been your survival? What likely of survival if you had to go out on your own in that big, crazy world with other tribes and other, predators out there.
Yeah.
And you're by yourself. Right?
Yeah. The survival is very non-existent,
Yeah.
That's also another thing too. I remember discussing that another thing that goes along with the tribes is that, not only if you did something, against what the rules are of the tribe, but also if you were too different, if you were,
if you stood out and challenged the leader or the what was I going to say, not the beta,
well,
the
alpha.
Yeah. If you challenge the alpha, then you could be out on your butt too.
Yeah.
So, like when people say like, oh, I've got a huge fear of rejection, or I feel like I'm going to die. I mean, man, it is in your DNA. It's been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So it meant to survive, you know? Now, fortunately, we do not have to deal with that in today's day and age.
Yeah.
It still does serve you though, because that fear comes up as kind of a, thermometer or an early warning signal, right? Of like, hey, maybe you don't want to do that because
Right.
People won't like you, right? Don't do that. Don't just go walk by and spank somebody on the bottom you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah. So let that fear serve you in that way. But, other than that, I mean, it doesn't really serve you anymore. Now, other reasons why this is super important to have people like you, right, is because in today's day and age, you need friends.
Yeah.
Right? You need people you can call friends, because, I mean, some of the reasons why friends are important is because you have somebody to connect with. You have somebody, that you can share things with, that they can share with you. And of course, you can have your significant other as well, right?
Yes.
But who could also be your friend, but you also want other people as friends because it allows you to be more successful in life as well. Because sometimes, like we had friends over last night and we were having a conversation about business and life and all kinds of things. And they were giving me advice and I was giving them advice.
Right.
And that's always awesome when you can do that. And some are even just, acquaintances that you like, they're still friends, but they might not be like close friends where you talk to every day or, every week or whatever. But at least like I've got a huge Rolodex of people I can just call and be like, hey, I'm thinking about, creating this book or creating a product on this or doing this. Hey, can I, talk to you real quick so we can, so I can get some ideas?
Right.
Can I run a couple things by you? And I have so many people that I can do that with. And that's because they don't dislike me.
Yeah. That's how I feel with a lot of my mom friends that like
friends that are moms.
Friends that are moms. Yeah. That we know we're there for each other. Like if there was anything going on, they needed support or help, I'd be there for them. They'd be there for me. And even like, things like helping them with their kids, I know one of my best friends, like there's been times where I had stuff going on or, stressful situations and I called her up and she was there for me, with even little things like picking them up from sports and stuff like that and dropping them off at the house. And, that's no small thing,
Yeah. Well, it also opens up for more opportunities in life, business, personal, all that stuff. Because, think about it. Like if somebody likes you, then they might want to introduce you to somebody, right? If you're single, and that's very helpful, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about like I remember I was going to say, I don't know about you, but you do know, but, whenever we would meet somebody and we liked them, male or female, and we would always think like, oh, this is a great person. Who could I set them up with?
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And we would do that. Right. And it also goes with business because, I meet new people constantly throughout my day. I might even just be ordering a burrito or something and I like order in and the person taking my order is like really nice. And I'm like, whoa, this is a cool person. Like I might want to hire them. Or, if they're looking for work, introduce them to somebody else that's looking for somebody.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time where I'm like talking to somebody at a dinner party or a family get together or a get together of some sort, like a birthday party for the kids or anything. And I'm talking to somebody and they're like, oh, I'm a coder. I do computer code and stuff. Oh, what kind do you do? Or, hey, I'm a salesperson. Oh, what do you sell? And you're just like, I might have something for you. I might know somebody,
Yeah.
If you like them, obviously. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then you're done. You're like, never mind.
Yeah. I mean, so it opens up all these opportunities. Yeah.
No, totally. And so that's super important. And it also is important if your business is to sell or to get new business, whether it's your own company or somebody else's company. People need to like you. Otherwise you are going to starve.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or if you want to like find investors for something that you have an idea with, or if you want partners, or if you want to get hired, it is a lot easier when people like you. I remember when I was changing careers years ago and I was looking to get into the real estate business, I, started calling all the people that I knew that I liked and I, figured they liked me because we'd have long conversations. And I was like, hey, who do you know that's in the, in the real estate industry that might be looking for somebody? And I went through one person and they told me another person and they told me another person. And all of a sudden I had a bunch of job offers because of the person that liked me.
Yeah.
And I remember I had like too many to actually choose from.
Yes.
And I knew nothing about the industry, and I didn't have any, real experience, and I didn't have like degrees or anything that they were looking for, because like if you looked at their job site, it says must have this, and this and this much college and these different things. But I completely bypassed that. I was like, hey, who do you know?
Yeah.
Right. And they told me, and I went and I met with them, and I remember I got signing bonuses. Like they paid me like a couple $1,000s to sign with them.
Oh my God, I remember that.
And I had more than one offer like that. I was like, ooh, this is awesome.
Because your character spoke for itself, and
because you're a referral for somebody they trusted and they like. So somebody likes somebody who likes somebody.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that came to mind, so I'm always trying, it's funny. I'm always thinking of things in like a mom way, because that's my life. Right. And, in my kids' sports, there are certain parents that it's like they are pretty absent. They don't really socialize with the other parents, with the coaches. And I see that it kind of leaves the kids up to themselves to have to like communicate with the coach and figure.
So would you say they're introverts, right?
They're introverts, but I see that it actually negatively affects the kid, because oftentimes they're left to their own, they have to do it on their own.
Yeah. And
I see the opposite, where the parents that, even if they are introvert, they just make a point of showing up and, being present for their kids and social, talking to the other parents, getting to know them, talking to the coaches, the teachers, whatever. I can feel so clearly the difference of like how their child feels supported. So it even affects that type of stuff.
You're definitely teaching your children. And I mean, sometimes I gotta like slap my hands together and be like, get myself into a good state.
Yeah.
I try not to do it in front of people, so they go like, what the heck is that dude doing? But there are times like, what was it? I think a couple weeks ago, I had to pick up Melina from dance, and I was in there, and it was kind of weird. Like it happens sometimes, and I got to kind of pep myself into this, and I went in there and I was waiting for her to come out of a room, and I knocked on the door, and there's a bunch of the girls in there, the young teens in there, and Mark, who's the one of the owners over there and dance teachers. And, he actually opens the door. He's like, can I help you? Like he didn't recognize me or something like that. And I said, yeah, I'm here for the class. And he's like, what class? And I was like, the dance class. And I started doing the Running Man.
You did?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, it was really priceless looking at his face. It's like, what's going on here? And then Melina's like, that's my dad.
Oh my word. That is awesome.
But you know what? It wasn't for his entertainment. It actually woke me up and made me feel better, and it forced me out of my shell. Right.
Oh.
So it's fun, but that's, a lot of people like will come back and be like, man, I really like you, or that was really great, or that was funny. You make people laugh. And I think that's another reason why, so many famous and comedians and actors that are like that are introverts, they like to do the comedy because they like to make people laugh.
Right.
They feed off that, and they enjoy it, and they love it, and they love connecting with people in that way, so it's not a bad thing. Right?
Yeah. I'm just having a mental picture of you doing the Running Man at the dance studio.
I'll do it after the end of this episode. I'll do it for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So over the years, we're going to give you some keys here, right? We're going to teach you some stuff here. Over the years, I've actually had people ask me on more than one occasion. They were like, how did you? And I was so taken back the first time this happened. I was like, what? I had people come to be like, they're like, how did you become a people person? How is it so easy for you? And I'm just like, what? I'm a people person, And then I've actually had more than one person either take me to lunch or dinner, and they're like, I want to like pick your brain and pry the secret, of how to be a people person, and get people to like you, and not to be like, not be an introvert, and if you guys want to know the secret, should I tell them the secret?
Yes.
Of how I do it? My secret sauce.
Reveal it.
Yeah. Well, my secret is that I never became a people person.
That's a good advice.
You like that? Yeah. So there's no hope for you. Sorry. You can never become a people person. No. Instead, here's what I did. Instead, I learned how to become interested in other people.
Oh, right.
That's really what it is. Learning to love to talk to people and learn about them.
Yeah.
You know, and ask things, you know, ask them about things that they like or that they love or they enjoy. And that will fill you up, right? And think about it. Whenever you know, see someone and for the first time, or maybe it's a friend or something, and I've like caught myself before when I'm in conversations with people and they're always talking about things they love. Sure. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're always like, you know, oh, and I did this, and then we went on this vacation, and I learned how to ride this scooter, and I've been trying this, or I tried, you know, Thai food for the first time, and they talk about all the things they love. When I share things, like it's really weird. Like I have this like moment where I like I step outside myself, and I realize that I'm like, am I talking about what I'm talking about because I enjoy it or because they generally want to know?
Wow, that's a good point. Yeah.
And and it's funny because like when I catch myself, it's not bad. It's just I catch myself say, is this something that they are interested in, or are they just, you know, listening because I'm talking?
Right.
And I will tend to catch myself, and then I'll turn around and ask them more about what they want to share about.
Right.
You know, instead of, because, you know, it's that old saying, right? You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. I mean, this is something that salespeople teach constantly, like sales training and courses and coaches. And they always say, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use accordingly, which means, you know, you don't want to be talking the whole time. You want to listen.
Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah. I mean, but of course it is okay for you to share what you want to share as well.
No, of course.
Yeah. But it's that balance. Like, and I'm just thinking like I should be more conscious of that as well.
No, I let them talk like at least, you know, 70 to 80% of the time.
Okay.
I ask them questions, I listen, and I am interested.
Yeah.
I am. Well, most of the time.
That's so cool because, I mean, really, that is something at our core to want to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, and want to be able to share what it is within us, you know, what we want to share. Yeah.
And you learn so much about people when you do that. And they tend to instantly like you.
Yeah.
When you're listening and asking them questions. You know, one of the things that, you know, one of the tools that I love to teach people is, you know, first off, to always be smiling.
Yeah.
Right. We were just talking about this a little bit ago, right? I was smiling at you and you couldn't even do the intro. You were like, stop.
You were making me laugh.
Yeah. It was kind of a creepy smile,
yeah.
but you know, in the, I think it was in the Attract the Person in Your Dreams book. I put in there a little comic, in there and it's, you know, it says like a smile is real style.
Yeah.
Right. And it is so true. You know, when you're smiling, it's impossible to feel bad. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. Like, you know, for you listening, put on a big smile on your face, like just ear to ear. And then just like, while you're doing it, don't stop, you know, try and feel depressed. Try, you know, big smile on your face and try. It's really, really tough to impossible.
It is. I'm doing it right now. I can't feel depressed.
Yeah. You can think of things depressing maybe, but it doesn't have that same feeling. It doesn't have that same charge.
I remember reading that smiling, it actually signals a part of your brain that stimulates the serotonin. Yeah. And I know in yoga, we talk about that you have fascia, you know, in within, well, it's all over your body, but the fascia in your face, we don't use it enough. And so by smiling and pulling the muscles back like that, it also, you know, it obviously gives a good effect.
Yeah, no. And it's also highly contagious.
Yeah.
Highly contagious. I mean, how many times, like, you know, you're out and you know, you make eye contact with a stranger in a car or at the coffee shop or wherever you are, or even could be even like the dance studio. And you might even know some of the people kind of, but you're just sitting there and you're kind of dazed off, and then you turn your head, and at the same time they turn their head. And if you just put on a big smile, they will return with a smile as well.
Yes.
Even if it's a stranger and it might be a nervous or a uncomfortable, like, I guess I have to smile too. They'll put on a smile too. And it's hilarious. It's awesome, to have that kind of power.
Yeah.
Right. So people can't help but to not smile when you're smiling. And again, going back to like sales courses, I remember when I was learning about sales, many years ago, that was one of the things that they suggested was if you have to do phone calls, you need to smile on the phone because they can sense it.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's so crazy,
That's awesome. I mean, it's so true though, because you can sense that in someone's voice, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I recommend if you want to, be able to talk to people and force them to like you. You don't want to force them to like you, but to get them to like you.
Did you mention eye contact as well?
I actually will. That'll be after the next thing. I changed the order too, because at first I was going to say eye contact, but before that, obviously, is ask their name. If it's a stranger, somebody you've never met before, or somebody it's the first time you're meeting, ask their name. And I don't know about you, but for me, I have the toughest time because of my ADD, ADHD, or whatever the heck we're going to call it, right? My mind going a million miles an hour, and I see a squirrel and I'm like, oh, wait, there's a squirrel,
Squirrel.
Squirrel. I'm really bad with names.
Me too.
Yeah, really tough. Well, here's one of the ways that I have learned to solve that is I ask their name, right? So like, okay, let's say I'm meeting you, right? Siri Shakti, and you're somebody else.
Okay.
I'm going to allow you to be somebody else. So I'm about to meet you. I'm like, hi, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
All right. What's your name?
My name is Samantha.
All right. So here's what I do. Thank God it was a name that I can actually, I'm glad you didn't make up a name. I'm like, my name is Siri Shakti. And I'm like, I don't know how to use that one. But
just to let you know where I got that name, it was my favorite and very first American Girl doll when they first came out.
Okay.
That's where I got the name from.
Very cool. So I'm gonna date myself here with this one, okay? I'm old enough to say that now. I'm gonna date myself.
Yes.
So what I do is I repeat it to myself a few times, usually like 2 or 3 times. Sometimes I will do it like with a crazy, like a million times in my head. Samantha. Right. In my head, I can say it faster, right? In a split second, I can say it a ton of times. But one thing I also do is I will look at you because I'm staring at you. I'm, eye contact with a smile, not a weird eye contact where I'm just like, like that. But in my head, I'm also picturing you as somebody that has that name that I can remember. Oh. So it could be a character in a movie. It could be a movie star, celebrity, musician. It could be anybody. It could be a cartoon. Anybody you can think of with Samantha. Now, I think Samantha, wasn't that like Bewitched or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was that. Now, that wasn't the first thing that came to my head. For me, it was Samantha Fox. Do you remember her?
Oh, yes.
She was like a singer and like model. And
you could picture me as her. That's cool.
There you go. So I was thinking Samantha Fox. So in my head, I'm thinking Samantha Fox. And I see your face and I'm just remembering it. It'll be there at that point. And, to kind of fast forward, after we talk for a while and I'm asking you questions and we're having a conversation, what I'll do is I'll actually write down when you leave, not while we're talking. When you walk away, I'll pick up my phone, and you see me do this in the past, and I'll write down. This is actually back when I didn't have a phone. I had a Palm Pilot. Remember back in those old days?
Palm Pilot. Oh, God.
And I would write down their name and something that I remembered about them that we talked about. And I'll write a couple notes. And I did this like when we went out to eat, and it'd be the same guy behind the cashier or something like that, or the owner or the manager. And every time we come in, there were times that we were about to walk in and I'd forget their name. I'm like, oh man, what was their name again?
Yep.
And because it'd been a while, and I pull out my my phone or whatever at the time, and I'd look and I'd be like, oh, works here, right? And I'd just look it up and be like, okay, cool. And I walk in.
Yeah.
And then after doing that like 2 times, I would remember them and I would not forget again.
Yeah.
If I meet them like 2 or 3 times. And how was that interaction? I mean, you saw it, like they became like really good friends.
Oh my gosh. And people love it when you remember their name. Like that just means so much, It makes you feel good.
Yeah. And it wasn't to get something from them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, yeah, sure. A lot of times they give us like free food and cool stuff like that, but it was never with the intent of that's what we want. Yeah. Right. It was kind of like, just to spread goodness.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to be a caring person Yeah,
make people feel good. You never know what they're going through.
I do the same thing, but what I do is when I save their name and number in my phone, right next to their name, I put a little note. It could be like 3 words of just keywords that help me remember who they were. And I've done this so many times, like, with like moms at the homeschool group. And so I would always remember when I saw them.
I'd be interested to see those little
Well, it's so funny.
Big butt.
No, they're not like that. They're good things. But yeah. But every time I'd see them, I'm like, okay, I remember we discussed this. I'd always remember stuff like that, and I'd go back and I'd jot in that little keyword, and their name would pop up. And same thing for me, it would just take a few times and then I'd remember. But it's funny you say that, because there was one time one of my friends saw the little note next to their name and they started laughing, but it wasn't a bad thing. I forgot what it was.
But
funny. They're like,
wait, how did they see it though? Like,
because I was texting them and I had forgotten to erase that note, and you know how their name shows up?
Oh, that's because you put it in. Okay, because you put it in with their contact information.
Yes.
In the contact address book. Got it.
That was,
well, you put it right next to their name though, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Put it in the notes. There is an
okay.
On your phone, there's an option for notes.
There is?
Yeah, and they won't see that unless you're on them as a contact.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to put it next to their name, because when you get a text from them, it's going to say, we talked about this,
oh, that's funny.
Or something like that. But I didn't even put them in the contacts to search, which you can do now. Back then we didn't really have that, but I would just put them at the time in like a notepad or something like that. But no, that's great. If you have their contact information, put them in the contacts. Even if you don't have their phone number, you could put their name down and where you met them.
Yeah.
And then if you ever run into them again, you can search your contacts, your address book by that place you met them at, and it'll pop up. So you can do that as well.
Well, for most of them, I put like, this person's mom, like Jasmine's mom next to it, that kind of thing. But yeah.
No, totally. Then as far as we were talking about, always keeping eye contact.
Yeah.
This is something I force myself to do, mainly because I will like see a squirrel or anything and then forget what we were talking about. So I have to focus. Plus, I also want to just respect with what we're talking about, and I have interest in what they're talking about. So I will look into their eyes.
Yeah.
I won't break eye contact. And it's funny because you will see some people, they'll kind of like look the other way and then but like they'll start looking at you, and it's really cool. Like sometimes like I'll watch other people talking, like while we're talking or something, or if I'm part of that conversation or I'm right next to it, I like to just kind of people watch, and see what's going on there. And I will see like people kind of like talking and looking different directions and all that, so like I just like look right into their eyes, while they're talking, and not in a creepy way again, with a smile on my face as I'm listening to them.
You're like, I'm staring into your soul.
Yeah. Maybe practice in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
Practice in front of a mirror while you do it.
I'm always talking, to our son Bodhi about this, because every time he talks to someone, he's looking the other direction. It's like he's thinking.
Yeah.
And he hasn't quite learned that, you can think at the same time and look at the person.
Now, and that actually probably comes from, because I'll tell you when I do that. Like last night, you actually saw me do that too. when we were talking to our friends and they were talking about, some business ideas and business names, and you saw me turn my head.
Yeah.
And you're like, what was your reaction?
I was like,
you were like,
are you okay? Or something like that.
Okay? Or
okay?
you don't like it because you're looking the other
Right.
direction. And I need to do that because that's for me to actually internalize it.
Right.
And kind of run it through my head and come up with ideas, because we're not in a discussion.
Yeah.
That's a little different. We're not in a discussion where we're just like, talking about life or whatever. We're trying to come up with some brainstorming, some ideas. And when we do that, I do have to look in different directions. I do have to absorb it, and I do have to bring it in and think about it. So that's a little bit different. But another thing is, we kind of talked about is engage with them with what they're talking about. If don't just listen and don't say anything, right? If it's something that you have some knowledge in or you've done as well, if it's like a vacation spot or something they're talking about or anything like that, if they're talking about like how they love, playing with RC cars and used to have one, then engage with that. But, continue to let them talk. Don't take over the conversation, but just be like, I had one of those, or I had this kind. What's the one that you had and where have you done, and kind of get into that conversation. And there's a great book. I believe it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
If that's the exact title. I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by Dale Carnegie. And it's an amazing book. You can buy it as a book on Amazon or wherever at a bookstore. You can also get it on like Audible, the audio version. I bought the book and I listened to the audio. I like the audio. I listened to it a couple times. And I'm always remembering the story in there about a salesman that was going door to door, because this is like the old times, right? When they went door to door, and they go door to door, and they came to this house, and the mother answered the door. The salesman came in, and he was going to do a presentation about a vacuum cleaner or whatever he was selling, right? Cleaning products or whatever, I don't know. And the son, he was like I'll say like 7-year-old or 8-year-old son, comes out, and he's like, starts talking. He has all these trains all around, right? These little play trains, right? And so the salesman looks at him and says, "Oh, hi, and are these your trains?" And they start talking. And then the boy started going off about trains and all the different kinds of trains he has and the trains he likes and all these things. And the salesman just was smiling and listening and asking him more questions about it. And at the end of it, after he did his thing and his spiel or whatever, the salesman to the mother and had left, then the boy turns to his mom and goes, "Whoa, I really like that guy. And he likes trains. He really likes trains." Aww. And the mom looks at him and says, "No, he was talking about trains because he knew you liked the trains. Because it was something that interests you, that he could see that you enjoy talking about him. So he was interested in what you liked."
Right. Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me is again, listen to people. Listen to them and engage with them and allow them to talk about the things that they love.
That reminds me of our daughter, Kayleen, who loves anime. And she could just talk and talk and talk about anime and her characters. And sometimes I'm like, because she can talk for so long, I find myself like kind of dazing off. And I'm like, okay, no, come back. Like I try to bring myself into focus of what she's talking about because it means so much to her.
No, totally. And I've seen her talk to other people that enjoy as well and some people that don't.
Yeah.
But we're also teaching her. It's an opportunity to teach her to also listen to what other people enjoy.
Yes, that is something that has to be worked on.
Yeah, super important. Another thing too is, if you've ever been one of those people, because I've had people come to me and say like, "Oh, how do you come up with such great stories?" Or "You're such a great storyteller," or, telling things like that's happened and, cool things that have happened in your life, or of people's in their life, their stories. And I mean, a great little secret here is when you talk to more people and you learn more about people, you'll start becoming a collector of stories.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're going to be talking to people and they're like, "Oh, and this happened and that happened." And you're like, "Oh, that is so cool. That's so amazing." And now you can turn around and tell that story to somebody else. I have a friend, or I know somebody that went through that as well, and it's more opportunity to connect with people and have some really cool stories. Now, obviously make sure that you don't say something that they told you in confidence.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So if it's something that was supposed to be a secret, like they said, don't tell anybody this, but,
Yeah.
then don't tell anybody.
Don't use it as your own story. And yeah, totally.
Exactly. And don't write a book about their life if they didn't, if they didn't want you to do that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Another thing too is kind of cool is like if you could buy a joke book, because jokes are great. Like I don't remember that many jokes off the top of my head, but like when I'm talking and sometimes, and if something comes up like, oh yeah, you ever heard that joke or a story, I'll tell them a story or something like that. And that's another great way as well too. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but because I love to entertain myself a lot, there was a trip where it was at Tony Robbins resort in Namale. There's a Namale resort in Savu Savu. Savu Savu? Is that what it was? Yeah. And we had I think about 20 or 30 people. I think we just got done having dinner or lunch or something like that. And there was 20 or 30 people. Some were, very successful entrepreneurs. There was a billionaire there, millionaires there. There was actors and directors and, some famous people that you'd recognize. And we were talking and I started telling a joke. That's a story joke.
Is it the red ball one?
The little red ball joke. And I won't tell that joke right now because it takes it can be as short as 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes.
But if you tell it properly, it could take 20 minutes to tell that joke. And so all you need to know is you go through the whole joke and then you just leave people on a cliffhanger and there's no more to the joke. And they get so angry. And I don't know. I just love doing it sometimes because it's so entertaining.
And they're all irritated because there was no closure.
There was no closure. And I use it as a teaching moment, but typically they don't want to hear it at the time. But I'll tell you, they will never forget me. And at that one, that was the first time I got water thrown at me by somebody. They're like, I hate you. But
that's awesome.
For the rest of the trip, I think it was a few more days left on the trip. They came up to me. They were like, I can't believe you told that story. but we were connected, and it was funny. And they'll remember me to this day.
Oh, yes. I've heard you tell a few of those types of jokes over the years.
Yeah.
On a very regular basis.
And again, and sometimes, you will say to me or people say to me that wasn't funny. And I'm like, it was funny to me. And
that's you've said that so many times. It was funny to me. I'm like,
yeah. And you got to entertain yourself though, Now, I will give some warning that if you're telling jokes at work, make sure that they're not what is it called? R-rated jokes or something that can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
With HR or something like that. We don't want to get you into trouble or anything like that. So be careful. Now, another place that you can actually practice, becoming more of a people person is you can go to, when you're at the grocery store.
Yeah. Or
you're out in public, or if you're at stores are great, like a department store or something like that. They even call them department stores anymore. I don't know. Target.
Yeah, they do. They call them department stores. Yeah.
You go to Target or you go to a clothing store, a Nordstrom's, or or any kind of a store that has employees. They get paid to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to sell you stuff.
And don't you notice often, or at least I've noticed, oftentimes I'll go to the store and the checker looks really just kind of down, bored, just not really feeling good. And so I will always ask how they're doing and engage with them. That's something I always do. Yeah. Even if I'm really tired, I still do it. And they perk up, Yeah,
totally. And this is where you can practice doing this stuff, just telling a little joke or asking them oh, how you doing? Or something like that. Heck, there's been times where I saw somebody that looked depressed and I was like, and I, said something to him and it might've been oh, I really like that necklace, or just anything like that. Or, oh, wow, what kind of bracelet is that? That's cool. Or they might have a button on them that's like Mickey Mouse or something oh, you like Mickey? And they, like you said, pep up and jump out of it and they're like, whoa.
And it also makes you feel better too.
Totally.
There's been times I was at the store, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be at the store. I'm so tired. I just want to go home. But then I'm in line and I start visiting with the checker, the person who's bagging the groceries, and I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little bit better,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. So that's one way to practice. And also after that, you can practice with your coworkers as well, people you work with. And obviously, again, be careful. You don't want HR on you
Yeah.
or anything like that. Don't cross any boundaries. And practice with strangers. That's when you're like really ready to like kind of go out there and, smile, give a big smile and say hi. You don't have to have a conversation. It can just be a smile. You can lighten up somebody's day. And obviously, when the opportunity presents itself, don't just jump out of the bushes to find a stranger. Like, oh, hey, there's one. Hey, and give a big smile.
Like running after them.
Yeah, don't run after them so you can get in their line of sight so you can smile or anything like that. So when opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, that's just creepy. Like,
yeah. Exactly. All right. So is there anything else you want to go over before we go into the RockStar mission for today?
No, I think that's it. That's it.
All right. Well, before we go into the RockStar mission, we want to remind you to go to rockstarinlife.com to get links to resources mentioned in this episode, the transcript, download the free books, training, yoga, meditation, homeschooling advice, and so much more being added every single week. Go to rockstarinlife.com and join the Rockstar in Life revolution today.
Awesome.
Right?
And now we're going to get into our RockStar mission for today.
If you choose to accept it, which we hope you do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. So here's what we want you to do. This week, want you to, if depending on your lifestyle, if you need to go to the grocery store, or if somebody else goes to the grocery store and you don't, well, you need to go to either a grocery store or some store and talk to people, right? Talk to people that are working there. And it doesn't have to be just people that are working there. You can talk to somebody else. Like, you might be like, standing in the cereal section and there's somebody else there. And, and they're looking at a cereal and you might ask them like, oh, have you tried that before? Is it good? Or something like that. It can be, it could be at the bookstore. Like somebody's looking at a book. Hey, I was looking at that book and have you read it? Is it good? There are so many opportunities for you to be able to strike up conversation. Now, I do say talk to the people that work there because they get paid, to be there and they're probably pretty bored.
Yeah.
And it's a safe bet to start practicing with that. And it could be like you're walking through the aisles looking for something. And instead of just saying, because a lot of people like introverts, like myself, sometimes I'll like look at you and be like, hey, can you go ask them something? Because I don't want to talk to anybody. But, if you're by yourself, normally you would just spend the next half an hour trying to find something in the store because you don't want to talk to somebody.
Oh, boy.
Well, force yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody that works there and says, hey, do you know where these chips are? Do you know where this is? And instead of just saying that, also ask them something like, oh, hey, I really like that shirt. Or, hey, or anything, right?
It's funny. There was one time I asked for help at Whole Foods and this guy who was so nice, but he just started talking and I couldn't get out of the conversation. So eventually I found a way out, but he had so much to share. He even showed me pictures of his daughters.
No, that's awesome. And I totally get that. And you can get wrapped up in that. And if you're in a rush or you got to get something done, you just tell them, just say, hey,
Yes.
you look in their eyes and you say, I really appreciate you taking the time, or I really enjoyed seeing those photos and everything. I actually have to get going because I'm running late for something, but I am so glad I ran into you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
very
it.
much. Mm-hmm.
That's all you got to do. You don't have to like be like, because then you'll start to feel resentful, for talking to somebody or whatever it might be because you're running late or whatever it might be. So, just be able to do that. And that takes practice sometimes, you need to practice to do it for some people. But, again, when you're talking to people like this, and we talked about it when you're going to like either a grocery store or the mall or outdoor mall or an actual, like any store, and you have a conversation with somebody, look into their eyes the whole time, have a smile, and kind of get to know them, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things right there. We want you to do that each day. You must talk to at least one new person a day for the next 7 days. Right? Now, obviously, that doesn't mean to ignore people you do know because you're like, oh, I've got to talk to, a new person today, so I'm not even going to look at you. No, still talk to those people and, that you've already met and say hi, but meet at least one new person a day, right?
Yeah, of course.
Now, and also, again, I don't think I have to mention this, but, don't go down like a dark alley to go meet somebody or something like that.
No.
Or go out like, oh, I haven't met my person for today, so it's midnight, so I'm going to go in this really, sketchy, dangerous neighborhood and go meet somebody. No, don't do that, right?
Yeah, no.
So for the next 7 days, do that and write down in your journal, the people that you met. So the person you met today, or the next day, write down in your journal their name and something about them that you learned, right?
Yeah.
And this is on top of, if you're going to write down their name and something about them in your phone or whatever, but also write it in your journal because you're going to do this for the next 7 days. And then after those 7 days, if you like it, which we think you will, then continue to do so. You don't have to keep writing in your journal, but I would write in your phone so that way you have it in case you ever run into them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, their name and a little bit about them. Yeah.
And even for someone that's listening to this episode that is a social person, even like we were talking about the practicing listening to other people, because a lot of times people are extroverts, but they just kind of steal the conversation a lot of times,
Yeah.
So that would be part of it.
Remember to engage with them and have them talk about things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super important. That's how you get people to like you.
Yep. I mean, this is really important. I mean, humans are social creatures, and life is about relationships. It's everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to get something out of them. I guess you kind of are. You're getting them to open up.
Open up.
Yeah. And feel good. Feel good.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, don't forget to be a rock star in your life
and make the world your stage.
Thanks for listening to RockStar in Life, your source for unleashing your inner rock star. For more tips, training, and free stuff, be sure to go to rockstarinlife.com and join the RockStar in Life revolution today. Thanks again, and don't forget to make the world your stage.
What's wrong with you? Why can't you
Stop
talk?
it.
What?
Stop.
I'm just teaching people to smile in a creepy way.